Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Pints and Perspectives, a podcast hosted by WellHouse Church, where we believe that there's a plethora of theological perspectives and plenty of beer to go around.
Yo, we are back and we got some new toys.
Well, old toys, but yeah, new space, new look,
new space, new look, new
vibes,
new co-host. That was a joke.
No new co-host.
Not
anymore.
You're
not new anymore.
He actually won't let me leave.
It's true.
To be honest.
It's true.
So we figured out what these buttons do. And
I knew what they were. I just never had this set up in a way where I could have headphones plugged into it and like be able to use them in some kind of meaningful way. And now we do.
Cullen can't hear what I'm doing though.
I mean, I can't.
So if you in post, he's gonna hear it all in post.
Yeah, so. And if you don't like it, let Adam know in the comments that you don't like his newfound toys.
That's right. So it's gonna feel a little shock jockey, but we're gonna get our own samples loaded into this thing. Anyways, welcome back to Pints and Perspectives. We're off to a rip roaring good start. Different space, something a little bit more, not permanent. Permanent's the wrong word, but
but just a little more stationary. We don't have to do setup and tear down anymore.
Yeah, we don't have to tear it down.
It's got a little bit more true podcast vibes.
Indeed.
Got some of our books now.
I want to go through each and every one of these books and why they've been selected, but that would be an episode.
That would be an episode entirely
itself. So if you're only listening on Apple or Spotify or wherever you find your podcast, there is a YouTube video version of this podcast and every episode of it, and we would love for you to go check us out because I am so stinking handsome. My wife says so it must be true.
Of course.
All right, let's drink beer. Yes.
Let's drink beer, yes. Adam, what are you drinking?
I have no clue about this beer. It's from, the brewery is 11 Below Brewing.
H-Town?
They're from Houston? I can't say that I've had anything from this brewery. Do we know
they are? They're on Burgess Road.
Where is that? What part of town is that?
Looks over, it's kind of in the Willowbrook Mall area, so west side.
Okay. No, Jersey Village.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
Okay, all right.
The Beltway.
11 Below, what's up? First exposure to your beers. This is their Goat Getter Texas Bock. It is a goat anthropomorphized into like a human body with a sweater with the arms cut off. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, I looked at it when I bought it. I thought it was interesting marketing.
6.2% Bach, 22 IBUs.
I can't find it on their website.
I wonder if it's a seasonal thing because it looks like a Christmas sweater, maybe.
Oh yeah, it's ripped up. Maybe it is, weird. But they have their seasonals and they're sometimes on their website. Like my beer is a seasonal beer from them.
Okay.
It's on here.
Tell us about your beer then.
So this is, they call it their Dublin Me Luck, and it's an Irish red ale.
Dublin Me Luck. Oh, like doubling.
Well, like Dublin, Ireland.
But doubling. It's a double entendre of double.
And Dublin. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They're killing it. And look, on their recycle can, it said, on the recycle part, it says, I wish you would recycle.
Mine says, recycling is the GOAT, greatest of all time.
Hey, look, I like that. They're each customization. Yeah. So this is a seasonal beer from them.
Because of St. Patrick's Day. March 17th.
Yep, St. Patty's Day. So it's available in the winter. It's 5.6 ABV, 20 IBUs, so that's real low if you did.
It was a red ale.
Yeah, red ale's not going to be high in hops. Also, unless you're doing an IPA, if you're drinking European-style beers, you're not going to have a lot of hops.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's not their preferred flavor. They mess around with wheats and malts much more. And over here in America, we mess around with hops a lot more.
We like that bitter.
Yeah, so the malts in it actually are Vienna malt, which is, just barely more than like a Pilsner malt on the Lovabond scale.
I did not know anything about that malt.
And then Carafoam, caramel, and barley, those get a little more. Caramel's going to be in like the 400, 500 Lovabond range. When you get into like stouts, Like, this is how you get your colors. When you get into stouts, you're looking at like 800, 900, 1,000 level bonds to get like rich, dark, coffee, black colors. Yep.
Fugel hops
and EKG. Those seem...
stands for echocardiogram.
Oh, there you... Oh.
You're welcome. That's just years of Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
I've seen every episode of every season.
Okay.
Truth.
Oh my gosh. All right. Cheers, bud.
Hey, cheers. H time. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And the crowd goes wild. The crowd goes wild.
I can only imagine what that sounded like. This podcast just improved a whole lot, guys.
Or devolved into something terrible. You go first.
Yeah. So if you know red ales, especially Irish red ales, are you a fan?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Killigan's
Yep. There's one, there's this restaurant. Is this just a Texas thing? There is a restaurant called BJ's. It's like a pizza place.
Brew House.
Yeah. And they have like maybe 10 now different in-house beers, varieties. They have, and most of them are not that, nothing to write home about, but their red ale, they have an Irish red ale, and it is this out of this world. I don't know if they have those in other places though.
So I think it's really good. It actually, 20 IBUs, it's a little more bitter than I would normally expect.
Is it it's real malty? Is it sweet? Is
okay, no, it's not real sweet. It's not real sweet.
Oh my gosh. That is the perfect spring beer.
Yeah.
Man, it does have a lot of bitterness on the back of the palate.
For an Irish red, yeah.
On the finish, yeah.
Yeah. Normally you would have like a really like clean, almost creamy, sweet flavor.
Yeah.
And this leaves you with like a little bit of bitter
it's a little
backness.
Bit of, I don't know. I don't know if I love
it. I will go ahead and say that it is a non-traditional Irish red.
Yeah.
It is not a traditional Irish red. I don't dislike it though.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna be in like the 6.8, 6.9. Like it, yeah, it's good.
Okay, this bock. Let me talk about this bock. So I love bocks. I think we did the St. Arnold's Spring Bock, maybe the last episode or something. That's like one of my favorite beers of all time, and I love all bocks, like the style of. And this one is perfectly balanced. It's not too, because some bocks can be a little too sweet. Some bocks can be a little too like just bland, like just flat. Yep. This thing is like perfectly balanced. I really
not too sweet.
It. Not too sweet.
Give me a comparable. Is it like a Crawford Bock level sweet, or is it like a Shiner Bock, a Ziggin Bock?
Yeah, like a little
Springbok, St. Arnold.
Well, Springbok is so sweet. Like a Crawford Bock, but a little less sweet. It's like right in the middle. It's right in the middle. It's a really good. It's well balanced. Yeah, and it's 6.2% alcohol by volume. So it's got a little kick to it.
Yeah,
just a little bit. I'm gonna give it a 7.
Okay.
And a half. Ooh.
Oh, okay. There you go.
And the crowd goes wild.
This would actually be a good time to briefly give some people a beer nugget.
A beer nugget? What's a beer nugget?
A nugget of information about beer.
Oh, I thought it was something you bought at like Buffalo Wild Wings.
No. Oh, like corn nuggets?
Sure, whatever.
No. If you're going to think about beer, so this is an Irish red ale, and that's a Texas Bock.
Yeah.
A Bock is a type of lager.
Okay.
And a lager,
not an ale,
is different than an ale.
Right.
Yeah. And so the way you should really think about this, and this is the best way I've figured out how to communicate it, so hopefully it's helpful. If you like the analogy, let us know in the comments. But I look at beer as like a tree, and it's one main trunk that's the beer trunk, and then at some point it gets to a Y where you have two main branches going off that the beer tree kind of blooms and blossoms from.
Okay.
And those are ales and lagers.
Okay.
And the only difference between an ale and a lager, you can have the exact same recipe. The only difference is the temperature you fermented at.
Really?
Yeah, you can have the exact same recipe, both ways, boiled everything, and you ferment one below 65 degrees, and it's a lager. If you ferment above, in between 68 and like 75, which is where most ales are fermented, it's an ale.
So what is the primary indication? Like, what's the big difference there? Like, I understand the temperature
lagers end up more crisp.
Okay.
Yeah, they end up more crisp and kind of cleaner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yep. That's the difference between a lager and an ale.
I did know there was only 2 branches of the tree and then many sub branches off of that. But,
yep.
Yeah.
And so from the lager side, right, you would have Bocks, you would have Oktoberfest, you would have Pilsners.
Yeah.
You know, and same, you have Irish Reds, IPAs, stouts, porters, you know. Whatever.
I do feel like there's more ale varieties than there are lager varieties.
What's the older one? I mean, remember, we couldn't really ferment things natural element temperatures until we could control it with refrigeration.
Aha, look at you, smart boy. Nerd.
That's, well, yeah.
I can create my own laughter. If I tell a dumb joke.
It's true. You can. You can create your own laughter. Okay. Well, let's talk about God.
Again?
Yeah, but this time it's a little different.
Okay, go.
And ironically, we don't have any books up here that are dedicated to the conversations that we're going to have today, which is conversations about panentheism and open theism.
No, your boy Emil Brunner is on this table.
Oh, that's true.
And he is the theologian that convinced me to be an open theist.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, do you maybe want to share that journey? Maybe that's the best way to do that, and along the way, say what it is.
Yeah. It's interesting because he was the first scholar I read that really asked the question, like, how can a all-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful God, be passable, right? And like experience suffering and pain. And he, in this book in particular, this is the 3rd volume of his systematic theology. He talks about this idea of God's ability and choice to limit God's self, so that God does not know everything to the point of total determinism. God in his infinite power has put like a filter on, or like glasses on, or like has chosen to be less than all knowing for the sake of restoring relationship between a humanity that has rejected him, has rejected God, and God attempting to continually inviting humanity into a relationship that he isn't quite sure how they will respond, because he is. I don't know that Brunner would use the term like evolving with humanity or like growing with humanity, but learning with humanity perhaps as we like careen into the future.
Yeah. It's like a symbiotic give and take relationship between us and God at this point, whereas before it was not.
Yeah.
It was a predetermined kind of relationship.
I guess so. But so that is generally what Brunner thinks, and that's generally what open theism is. And so for me personally, when I was wrestling with that in grad school, I had this thought in the library one day. I went, why is open theism a bad thing? Because in my head, it was always like it was one of those theological moves that was just too far outside of the heterodox, core.
Yep.
And so I'm reading Brunner, and you can see this thing's like tore up with annotations and stuff. And I had this thought in the Baylor library. I was like, why is open theism bad again? And so I went to lunch with a group of colleagues, and I just said, okay, everybody shut up. This entire lunch, y'all are going to tell me why open theism is wrong or heretical. And one of my closest friends, Ben Hayworth, sitting across the table from me over a plate of salad, said, there's nothing wrong with it. You're just late.
So funny.
Grad school.
Yeah, grad school. Yeah, my first encounter with open theism, I was also in grad school, but I was not the one researching open theism. A guy that I was on staff at the church that I was at, our worship pastor, was also going to grad school. And he was going to grad school at Southwestern. And so
sorry,
one of his papers that he wrote for, I don't know, I think it was his systematic theology class.
Oh, I know this guy.
It was like the paper was shitting on why open theism was heretical.
It was making an argument for open theism.
No.
Oh, against open
Yeah,
theism.
that it was heretical.
Yeah, man. The evangelicals hate that shit, yeah.
Yeah, and so my first predisposition to it was like, oh, man, this is bad.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was...
Yeah, I was in the same boat as you.
I thought I was Rob Bell.
Yeah. Yeah. And then somewhere along the way, I'm not really sure what happened along the deconstruction journey, but I was just like, it really does solve a lot of problems. It like open theism solves a lot of problems that we try to do these like hermeneutical jump rope
but it's
games
also,
with.
But it in and of itself, as the resident cynic here, is also a theological jump rope that we are jumping into.
Okay, yeah. So maybe So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to talk, that's a brief intro to open theism, but this really, in a conversation about the problem of evil, goes hand in hand with another $10 theological term, which is panentheism.
Yes, right.
Maybe we should differentiate or say panentheism is not pantheism. Pantheism is probably what most of you are thinking, that God is everything.
Yeah, or like that God is in, is essentially in all things. Like that bush outside the window is
Mother God.
Yeah, but as much as anything, like the floor, infused into everything.
The table, the microphone, anything you can see. Yeah, God is everything.
Yeah.
My problem with that is, if God is everything,
then God is nothing.
Well, yeah. So that's part of it. Is God is nothing. But the
atheists all stand up, and the crowd goes wild. Exactly.
But my other point with this is that if that is true, then God is dying.
Say more?
Well, the earth is dying.
Okay.
I mean, climate change is a very real thing. The earth is dying.
It's being murdered.
Yeah, fine. But it's still dying.
Yeah.
And so if God is everything,
just like Jesus was murdered,
then God is dying.
Well,
but
we know that God dies, don't we? Isn't that the thing?
Except that God was resurrected and lives.
Well, maybe there's a resurrection of creation.
Oh, yes. Yes, we call it the apocalypse.
So you're a pantheist.
No, I'm a panentheist.
Well, what's the difference, Pastor Cullen?
In pantheism, God is everything. In panentheism, God is in everything.
Wow.
I hate that one. I think it's a pointless sound. I don't know. I have no.
You know what? Ask the audience.
Hey, is that a pointless sound? I think it's a pointless sound.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So panentheism is this idea that God is in everything. So this table is not God, right? I could not worship this as God in the same way that I would not go worship the tree outside as God. Ooh. But I believe that God is present in that tree. That tree produces life. That tree produces growth. That tree contributes to the atmospheric habitat that we live in. God is definitely in that tree, but that tree is not God.
Is God in that tree at some scientific level, or is that only like in a abstract spiritual?
Well, it depends on how you want to determine the term life. Because that's how I would, God is life. And so anything that gives life can have God in it.
So this soundboard does not have God in it, right? Because it is some mechanical, non-life-giving.
Right. Like an inanimate object is not what we're talking about. But what I'm really talking about here is a connection to what Plato called the tripartite soul.
Okay.
And he broke down the soul as into these three different parts, and the epitome of existence, or the epitome of the fullest experience of the soul, was a human soul. Because it had a mind and a body and a soul, and it was the fullest experience of life.
That's pretty presumptuous of Plato.
Well, the second tier is animals. Because what can they not do? Well, they can't do a lot of the things that we can do, right?
I guess, yeah. Like,
and then the third,
organize, they can't organize. Well, they do though. The chimpanzee is wild. Right.
But then the third tier is like plants and grass and things, because they breathe.
Right.
We do not exist without the greenery around us taking what we put out and taking it in for its own food and putting out what we take in.
See, this is what's crazy. Okay, maybe I'm running down a bunny trail, but here's the problem I see with this. Like, this is the problem with white men determining hierarchies. Okay, follow me here. Okay. So at the top of this brother's hierarchy
is himself.
Yeah.
Always.
Hello. And the crowd goes wild. Yeah. And at the bottom is the tree. But here's the deal, Plato. Without that tree, you are dead, brah.
Yeah.
And that tree is going to survive and thrive without you, human.
Yeah.
So the hierarchy is flippity-flopped.
Well,
when we make ourselves the preeminent species in which everything exists for us, that's when we are a parasite.
But Plato wasn't doing that because he called it a tripartite soul, a three-part soul. So all parts were intermingled and independent, but also necessary for one another.
Okay, so it's like a holism.
Well, yeah, because actually that tree will not live without us. Because what does that tree take in for its food source?
It needs carbon dioxide, but there are other things that are producing carbon dioxide.
What in nature that we did not create produces carbon dioxide? Nothing.
I don't know.
We do.
Okay.
We do, and the things that we make and build.
Doesn't the bear release carbon dioxide?
Oh, I guess other mammals would.
Yeah.
You're right. I guess other mammals would. So nature itself is cyclical in that way, or circular.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
And Plato would agree.
It goes all together.
Plato would agree that we need all of them, and that's why all of this is a distorted representation of the forms, which are perfect, because it is circular. Whatever.
Yeah,
circular.
Beer. Okay, sorry. So that was
aside. That's open theism and panentheism. Now, the way they work together is open theism really is only about God's knowledge. That's really the only thing it's trying to solve. However, there's a guy named Jürgen Moltmann.
Oh, yeah.
That has come along.
Well, he's like the most famous open theist.
And panentheist.
Or panentheist.
That's really what he's famous for.
Yeah.
And he's like in the, right around World War II, like 1940s?
I think he died in the 60s.
Okay, yeah. So the heart of his research, writing, and career is in like the 40s.
50s, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
As if we couldn't Google this, but yes.
That's a great
prolific author, tons of influence on
German theologian, German Reformed theologian, born in 1926.
When did he die? Watch him still be alive. No, I'm certain there's no way he's still alive. If he is, maybe he's still alive, man. There is no death date.
Yeah, bro, he's still alive.
Yay, Professor Moltmann, deepest apologies.
Yeah. So so the reason that I want to bring that up is we can sit here and say all day long that culture and what's happening around you should not have impact your theology. It's a facade. It's a lie. Well, of course it's going to.
It's an impossibility.
Well, you can't look around during World War II and go, oh my God, millions of Jews are being murdered. Surely that shouldn't impact my theology.
Right.
There's just no way that can happen because that's your reality that you're observing in the way that you think God should be and or is interacting in the world.
And there's so much theology that's wrapped up in it too.
Correct.
Yeah.
So Jürgen Moltmann, around this time, ends up becoming like the heart of like panentheism theology.
Yeah.
But he takes it further to say that, okay, well, if God is in everything, then God certainly can't be all powerful because that would also mean that God is in the disabled person. God is in the person that can be harmed. God is in the suffering. Which means if God suffers, God cannot be ultimately powerful.
Right.
God is passible, not impassible.
Can suffer.
And that was a huge change. That was a huge, shift in everything in these conversations. Because before, the presupposition was God is impassible.
Right.
God cannot change, and God cannot suffer.
Right.
But suffering is change.
Yeah, that's right.
And so when Moltmann comes out and goes, nope, God absolutely suffers and is passible.
Right.
That was an earthquake through the theological landscape, especially coming out of Germany when it comes out of there, because German academic theology, even today, leads the world.
White people, man.
Well, and it's just
Europeans, bruh.
Well, and they have, I think there's a lot of reasons.
Stranglehold. That's why. Where's Gustavo? He's on here somewhere.
Yeah. So all of that leads up to a point where panentheism ends up kind of encompassing this concept that self-limitation of God. Not just about God's knowledge, but maybe about other attributes of what it would mean to be truly God.
Yeah.
God could choose voluntarily to limit those things of themselves for a time, for a season. And that's, if you look at it, you never get that kind of language about Yahweh, right? In Scripture, you never get that kind of language about Yahweh. That Yahweh, well, you never get a clear depiction of Yahweh where Yahweh chooses to relent power.
Doesn't Moses argue with him or something?
Oh, yeah, but is that relenting power or is that God changing their mind?
How are those two things, how are those two operations different?
Because I can still hold a gun to your head that is power and say, hey, I'm going to kill you, and you talk me out of doing it, and I still hold the gun. I never let you take away my power. I just let you change my mind about what I wanted to do with it.
Okay. I'm sure there's a hole in that somewhere, but I can't find it. So.
Well, actually, that is my point.
Okay.
That is my point, is that you never see Yahweh actually give up power or relinquish power. But you do see Yahweh passible. You see God change. You see God change their mind. You see God almost break their promises. Right? Yeah. When Moses convinces him, or when Moses convinces them not to kill the Israelites, what God says to Moses is, hey, go down there, we're going to kill them all, and I'm going to start over with you just like I did with Noah.
Yeah.
But
that's a bad God.
Well, that's a God that would have broken a promise that they said they would not do.
Because of the rainbow, apparently.
Well, that's only to destroy it by water.
Oh.
But to start over with another family, you can't do that because you have to go through Abraham. You've already made that covenant with Abraham. You can't kill everybody and start over with Moses.
I don't know. It would be a lot of incest.
It already was.
Yeah, see? Crazy stories, y'all.
Okay, so Open Theism and Panentheism. They're all real philosophical, theological concepts. Mm-hmm. Nobody was really, and lots of times you're not necessarily concerned with biblical theology and all of this because the Bible's not talking about it.
Yeah.
And so we don't always, lots of times when we have theological conversations, we don't always have to root them in the Bible because the conversation partner we're having didn't root them in the Bible. But if you could root them in our sacred text, it would be helpful, right? That's
yes.
That's a value. Well, for someone who might still value the sacred text.
It depends.
Yeah. That's very fair.
Know your audience.
Yeah, to some people that might be important. And I think I told you on the last episode that I think all of this, God laying down their power, so both in an open theism way and a panentheism way, that just God's voluntary self-limitation. I think all of that happened in the person of Jesus.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
And so if you were looking for a biblical construct to put this in,
Yeah.
I really do think the best one is the Christ hymn in Philippians 2.
Yeah, I mean, it is there. I mean, so like, and this is kind of why, like, I had that epiphany one day. I'm like, wait, why is open theism a problem? Because like Jesus kind of explicitly does it.
Exactly.
And says, or at least authors reflecting on Jesus. You know what I mean? So it's like, what are we doing here? But
yeah, I
mean, he to be human is to be passable. To be crucified is to be passable, right?
Yeah,
it
exactly.
is the passion for a reason. And so if you're going to hold that he's God, then
maybe we should say to die is to be passable.
Well, and to suffer, right? I mean, I'm sure he had a headache. I'm sure he had a stomach ailment. We know he wept over the death of a friend. Lazarus. He was human, right?
Yeah.
Like he experienced the human condition in all of its ways. And so he experienced suffering in all of its ways. Now, I just so happen to believe that's not that dramatic because he wasn't all that special apart from other humans. But if he's going to be some like eternally existent deity, that makes, and he is one Trinitarian with the Father, then this must imply things about the Father's omnipotence and omniscience as well.
Well, I think I'm struggling with your comment a little bit about him being pre-existent and
about how Jesus isn't special.
Well, just because it does appear that you've kind of evolved two things together, which is one of those
What did I do?
You're forgetting that in Luke 2, we get a story of Jesus as a little boy.
Yeah.
And we get a phrase in there where he grew in knowledge and wisdom and stature.
Yep.
So it's not like little 8.6 pound infant baby Jesus.
Baby Jesus
is a, omnipotent, omniscient being.
Sure. Right. Okay. Yeah.
But just because we believe that some element of the source of that person is divine, more so and in a different way than ours, doesn't mean that, like, I actually think it furthers my point that Jesus comes first as a baby. Because it is God growing and evolving and learning with humanity as an infant, going through every step of the process of being human.
Yeah, it's okay. So here's like an age-old theological question that there's many, many volumes on. But like, so in response to that, to what degree does the Godhead experience the passableness, the suffering, the vulnerability, the weakness of the Son? To what degree does the Godhead participate in the passion of the Son? Right, if they are one. Then this is such a extremely Trinitarian conversation.
This is the next episode.
Okay, the next episode.
We should, yeah. So we'll do this conversation about Jesus and God's suffering and limiting power and all of that in the next episode, and then we'll have the conversation on 2 episodes from now where we track God's perspective through the story.
Okay,
Old Testament to New Testament kind of thing.
Okay.
All right. See you on the next one.
What does this one do? Oh, it's like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it's like dark.
Can I run 2 at the same time?
You can do anything you want, dude. Look.
Birdie dark.
You can run this music and hit your drums. You can run this music. Yeah.
The audience hates us. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Pints and Perspectives podcast hosted by WellHouse Church. Be sure to give us a rating and a review if you enjoyed the episode. It's free and it helps us immensely. Also, feel free to check out our other podcasts.